The Victory Rap Sports Podcast. It's Rick, RJ, Julian.
And Dale, the coach, Eccleton.
And the sporting lives of some outstanding Central Coast sporting people this week. Thanks to our terrific podcast sponsors, Berkeley Vale Cellars. Thanks to Adam, the mighty Whitey at Whitey's Right Price Tyres at Berkeley Vale. And we welcome a brand new sponsor, Edlong Bowling Club. Hi to Kylie and the team there. And coach this week, a man who's had outstanding success in the sport that's been going ballistic over the last decade. And it is, of course, OzTag.
Yes, he certainly has, RJ, both as a player and as a coach. We welcome Jeff Coroneos as our Victory Rap number 6 sporting podcast. And welcome, Jeff. Welcome to the studio.
Great to be here, boys. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure, mate. And of course, you and I go way back through our son Grant, and originally rugby league was your chosen sport. And through that, you've evolved into OzTag, and we're going to find out how that actually happened in your life and what you've done in this sport that's gone ballistic on the coast, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been the last 15, 20 years, OzTag's just grown. I think it's just an offshoot for rugby league. So many people love rugby league, and people love OzTag as well.
Well, Jeff, I'm going to go way back. We'll go back to, I spoke to you a couple of weeks ago about your Greek heritage. Your family come from the Greek Isle of Kythera, and there's some prominent rugby league administrators that also come from that isle.
Yeah, no, I mentioned that to you the other day. Yeah, I'm from Kythera. My grandfather was from Kythera. He came over. He was actually a Greek Olympian, but he came over pretty early on, I think in the 50s, and and Peter Volandis and Nick Politis are from the same island as us, and I usually always tell people that, but the island's only got 20,000 people tops. It's interesting that we come halfway around the world, and there's a few people that are famous around here that are from the same island. So it's a funny story.
It certainly is. I'm just wondering, Jeffrey, whether you get free tickets to the grand final in State of Origin, mate. Does that sort of connect to the cultural connection at all?
Oh, I haven't got anything yet, but now that you mention it, I might send some emails or something like that.
So, Jeff, as a youngster, what sports were you into? Rugby league, I know, as RJ mentioned, but any other sports through your younger years and schoolboy years?
Yeah, I was like most Central Coast kids, or kids in general, that you'll give anything a go. I lived right near RJ at Foresters Beach, and surfing was a big part of my life. I started surfing when I was 6 or 7 years old, and that was big. But rugby league, I started playing that at probably 7 years old. Back then, I think they only had 8, so I think I did 3 years in the 8s and Barron Eagles, and then but I went to Womble Primary School and changed over to Terrigal. But yeah, rugby league, surfing, but I'd give anything a go. I liked athletics, swimming, pretty much anything really.
You sort of got stuck into the Terrigal Sharks at some stage, I think, and did very well there, mate. Tell us about your history with the Sharkies and the teams you played in.
Yeah, well, I grew up at Terrigal, went to Terrigal High, went to Womble Primary, and always liked playing for Terrigal. I sort of had some years off there. I had my early 20s, like most young blokes. I had injuries. I had shoulder reconstruction and a few other things, and I wasn't getting paid and things like that, and you've sort of got to concentrate on work, so I sort of gave that away. But because I'm a teacher, I sort of got involved in school, and there was teams to be coached, and that's probably how I got into a lot of my coaching. They said, does someone want to take a team out? And it was a way of getting a day off and also doing what you enjoy. So I did that, and I really enjoyed it, and that's pretty much how I got into it. But yeah, Terrigal, I was teaching at Terrigal High, and a lot of the kids that I was coaching in the school teams sort of said, can you come and coach us? And I thought, yeah, I could. I didn't have any children at that time and had a bit of time, so I had played in a winning grand final for Terrigal in 3rd grade. I came back for 1 year. There was a whole lot of old boys, and we won a grand final, and that was 2012. And I sort of had some links with the club, and they asked me to come back, and I took the 19s and for a couple of years there, and we had some success.
Well, Jeff, we'll talk about that coaching career in rugby league to start with, and it seemed like you certainly had the knack for it, because you mentioned you'd attended Terrigal High, now you're coaching there, and the success you had with schoolboy rugby league was amazing. 2 University Shields. I remember playing University Shield at rugby league at school, and how hard it was. And for a local school in Terrigal High to achieve that not once but twice, that's certainly a feather in your cap and the school's cap, the players you had.
Yeah, it was. I think I was in the right place at the right time. I was actually teaching at Tumby High, Tuggerall Lake Secondary College, probably for the most, 10 years of my teaching career at the start. But the principal I knew quite well at Terrigal High at the time. His name was Rob Morgan. He was my legal studies teacher back in the day, and he knew that I was sports mad. He knew, in class I'd talk about the teams and just everything like that. He knew what I was about, and I liked playing, and he sort of just by chance and said, look, why don't you come over to Terrigal High? I was quite happy at Tumby, but he said, look, we really want a rugby league coach, and we're going to take it serious, and we've got some good guys come through. Scott Drinkwater and those guys were only in year 8 at that time, but I said, yeah, well, that's a good opportunity, and I sort of was flattered that he invited me over, and it was a new challenge, and I went over there, and within sort of 2 or 3 years, they were a really formidable outfit, led by Scott Drinkwater and Jarrett Bowen and Eli Jackson and a whole heap of guys. But that 2015 year was it was good. We had some good guys, and it sort of led from there.
Jeff, what about your first introduction to coaching these guys, and that, as Dale mentioned, that University Shield victory, which is a really tough school competition. How did you you would have been nervous about telling these guys how to play rugby league, and what was it like the early years of coaching these school kids, many of whom you probably knew?
Yeah, it was different. I mean, because you've got to have a good relationship with them, and they don't want someone that they don't dislike, but you've also got to sort of set the bar and put some standards in place, and that can be challenging at times. These guys are only 16, 17, 18, and it was trying to get that balance. I was only relatively young at that point, early 30s. I mean, and I sort of just I knew that we had, once we started going, I knew that we had a bit of a real good chance, and it was nervous because that's a knockout competition, and we were travelling to places like Glen Innes. We were going out to Dubbo. We were going up the coast, down the coast, and you only needed to be off one of those days, and it could end for you. So I was nervous from that point of view. I did have faith in our team, but I mean, they were playing a lot of sport. A few of those members, particularly Scott, were integral, and the fact that he had got through 27 games. Injury, unaffected or nothing that ruled him out, and he was playing weekend footy. So from that perspective, it was really nervous, but it was a real good effort by them to get there in the end.
Well, Jeff, your ability as a coach was recognised because you became the Sydney North coach as well. Some of the players that you've coached in that Sydney North team, it reads like a who's who of the NRL. Tom and Jake Trebojevic are the first ones that come to mind. What were they like as youngsters? Did you see the ability they had then, and so where they could be headed?
Oh yeah. Like I was appointed, I think in 2007 or 2008, pretty early on, the Sydney North coach, and it was by Tony the Bear Keeble. He was for me. He sort of. He knew a bit about me, and he asked, and I thought, what's this? I knew it from my school days, but went in. It was amazing straight. I think the first year I had Will Hopewadi, which was, he was 15, and at that time he was one of the best 15-year-olds in the country. So having John overlook you and things like that, it was sort of a bit of a baptism of fire, but it was really enjoyable. I just found that they were just the average 15-year-old kids, but they were super talented, and the ones that I had were really, really respectful. Probably at that point in time, if I'm being honest, my knowledge wasn't, definitely isn't, what it is now. But they weren't rude, and they were willing to listen to what I had to say, and half of it's just getting on the same page, and they were really good. Yeah, I had a few of them, and you can tell from an early age. There's a whole heap that I could have mentioned that I just knew.
I'm going to mention them, mate.
Yeah, straight away. But there was others like,
Nico Hines.
Yeah, I had Nico Hines, and he was probably one that really blossomed later. He was good, no doubt. Anyone that makes that team's good, but there is probably only 2 or 3 in each team that will end up going on to NRL. And if I'm being honest, Nico probably exceeded my expectations, and that's probably because I underestimated his desire and his work ethic, and I'm probably, in years gone, since then I've probably noticed that a little bit more, and yeah, you've got a fair idea of who's going to go through.
In case people are listening, we better mention some of the other names, mate. Jesse Ramian, Jacob Little, and Ethan Strange, so that they're not, how come he didn't mention me, you know?
Yeah.
You know, why didn't you mention me? I was there, you know, like the
Yeah.
whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so, you know, obviously success at University Shield, the Sydney North, since 2017, I think it was. And then you started to, you know, think about, when did you start thinking about OzTag? When did that really start materialising? And then this is the rest of the interviews, basically looking at, you know, success you've had in OzTag, mate.
Yeah, well, OzTag's, yeah, a different thing, and I loved coaching, and, you know, even sports that I don't have a real knowledge about, I try to learn, and I feel like there's a few fundamentals you can get in any team that can make you go better. But yeah, OzTag probably got involved in 2006 myself. I'd just come back from overseas, and I'd been told I can't really play football a couple of years prior because of my shoulder reconstruction and things like that. And I was just playing a local teachers team for Tumby High there, and we were going quite well, and we got to somehow managed to get to the final, and we actually won against Pat Hart's team, which at that point in time he was the Central Coast coach and Australian captain and a whole lot of things. And he just asked me. I sort of remembered him from, you know, Tigers days when I was young. I'd go and watch, but didn't know him quite well. And he just sort of said, "Oh, do you want to come and play reps?" And I didn't quite know what that was, and I guess I was interested, and I went and played a tournament. I went okay, and he invited me back, and I guess that's how I got into OzTag and played my first national tournament at the end of 2006, and we did quite well. I don't know how much I contributed, but we got to the final, and it went to extra time, and I scored the winning try in extra time, and that was probably enough to get me selected in the Australian team. I don't think I did a whole lot other than that, but they'll probably came for another look, and then after that I was like, oh, how good's this? And went to a trial and then made the Australian team, and that's how I got in the Australian team, and I played in that 2007 first World Cup in Auckland, and that's probably where my playing career started. I really enjoyed it. I was sort of late, 27 at that point, but it was something that I could really concentrate on, and I liked the fitness side of it. I liked the team aspect, and I sort of just for those 5 or 6 years I was in the Australian men's team, I just really took it seriously, and I guess that's how my playing started.
But Jeff, I know Pat well, so you had a great mentor in Pat Hart, and I can see why you had such a rapid development under his tutelage. But 2009 was probably the standout year for you, where you were awarded the best player in Australia in 2009. What a huge achievement!
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, 2009, we had quite a lot of success with the Central Coast team, and I was pretty established in the Australian team at that point, and we played a tournament in Sydney. I don't know if it was, I was in the Men's Open, and I got, best player of the Men's Opens. I don't know if it's, best player in Australia, but, that's what, was
just
said.
take it, mate.
Yeah, so it was,
just take it.
So it was quite, I was really humbled, and, I just always wanted to, do the best for the team, and that was probably the peak. Towards then, I was starting to get a few knee injuries and things like that, so at that time, I was just grateful to be able to play, and it was quite good.
All right, back with more of our podcast with Jeff Coroneos, but let's mention some of our sponsors, Berkeley Vale Cellars. Now, if you love being a local, you'll also love Berkeley Vale Cellars, your true local liquor store. It's been supporting you and your local sport for over 10 years, and right now some great member specials, the best selection of craft beers, all your favourite mainstream brands. Come and reward yourself at Berkeley Vale Cellars, Lake Edge Avenue, Berkeley Vale, part of the Liquor Legends Group. Berkeley Vale Cellars, your true local legends, and thanks to Adam for being another week as our podcast sponsor.
Well, Jeff, that Central Coast side in that era was so good. They won 4 national titles with the Central Coast side and 5 state cups as well. Who were some of the other players that were involved in the Central Coast side then?
Yeah, when I first got in there, it was Pat. He was the main guy, and as you said, he was a really good mentor for me. I probably wasn't super disciplined when I first started playing, but I sort of learned that the best players are the ones that say no to a lot of things and just concentrate. He was good. Adam Carlisle was in there, and he was sort of ending his career. He was good, and Matt Smith for the Entrance Tigers. Brett Blaker played with Dean Wilbo, who's a really good touch player. He was part of it, and we had a whole heap of guys that were that were really, they were a little bit older than me, and they were really, really good mentors, and probably taught me a few things away from the game, and just as much as what on the field, I think.
You won 4 nationals, 5 state titles with Central Coast, and you've just come back from taking out another state title made at Port Macquarie. So take us through getting through to the final and winning in a drop-off.
Yeah, no, okay. So yeah, we just that was at Coffs Harbour. We had State Cup on the weekend. We sort of we didn't know how we're going to go this tournament because we had Ryan Martz and Jared Steen both got knee injuries early in our campaign, and then only a week ago, Taj Alvarez, who plays SG ball for South Sydney, he got his game moved to Saturday. So we had 3 withdrawals that were really really hurt us. But we went up and we prepared well, and a few of the guys came in that were shadows, and we had a really good Friday and Saturday. And on Sunday we had a semi-final, and it went to 3-3 at the end, and 5-on-5 drop off, and that went almost to the full allotment of time. And right at the end we scored and we scraped through to the final, which was good. We spent a lot of energy, and then we played Cronulla in the grand final, and they'd had some phenomenal results. I don't think they'd been tested much, and probably a little bit fresher than us, to be fair. And but our boys, we were losing 1-0 early on, and then we clawed back and got 3 tries. And with 10 minutes to go, it was probably 3-2 our way, and we just held on and scored in the last minute and won 4-2. And our boys, really good effort, and got some tired boys today, I think.
Showed that Central Coast spirit, Jeff, that's for sure. You mentioned injuries were starting to come and affect you being able to play all the time. When did the thought of going into coaching come into your mind, and who did you seek out to think if that's the way I want to go now?
Yeah, as I said, I struggled from a few knee injuries towards the back end of my career. By about 2000, I played in the 2012 World Cup in Auckland, and the men's opens, but I just knew preparing and the speed just wasn't there, and I was just starting to get a lot of pain. So I sort of started obviously thinking about it. The thought had come a little bit before then. I'd always, at Dane Myers and myself, pretty much took over the men's opens. We didn't, once Pat left, we didn't really have a coach, but we were player coaches, and we sort of took that role. He lived with me at the time, and it worked quite well. But 2012 came, and I just realised that my body just couldn't do it. The opens didn't really need me at that point. They were going quite well. Dane was still playing, and we had Mitch Williams. We had some senior members, and the girls actually asked, would you mind helping us out? And I thought, okay, I hadn't thought of that, but I did sit down. I thought, oh yeah, this might be something that I can help them with. And so from about 2013 to 2016, I coached the Central Coast girls, and before that they didn't have a lot of success, and I don't think it was to do with much other than the fact that they probably just needed some, a bit of organisation, a bit of structure, and by the end they were humming and winning state cups and nationals. So that was that was really successful. That was good for me to learn, because I just, it wasn't just about what you know about the game. It was about how you can communicate to different groups of people, get them on the same page, and I learned a whole lot during that period. Come 2017, and the boys were going for a bit of a slump. They had a lot of those guys that had left. The older guys had stopped playing, and they basically said we're in a bit of trouble. Breno Martin, who was the captain at the time, he was a young whiz kid. He probably would have only been 22, 23 at the time. He was like, could you come and help out? I said, oh yeah, I don't mind, I'm not doing anything. So we helped out, and we just started building a team from the ground up, and just got a lot of young guys, and just worked hard. And it took a little while. We weren't on top probably early on, but after about 2 years, we were just starting to. These guys were, we had guys like Will Eagleton, who's now, I don't know if he's a relation, but Will Eagleton, we took him in as a.
He will be now.
We took him as a 15-year-old, and he's now 21, and he's probably one of the best in the game. He's just outstanding. So a lot of that work that we did early on with getting the right guys in, we got them in, and we trained them up, and now they're seasoned pros and ready to go.
Jeff, coach of the Australian Men's Open team from 2017 to 23. Someone must have noticed you to give you the gig. I mean, if you're appointed national coach of any sport, there are people looking at you, watching what you're doing, and the success you're having with your teams. So was there someone that, who told you or asked you, say, mate, would you like to coach the Australian men's Oztag team?
Yeah, it was pretty much Perry sort of mentioned to me.
Perry Haddock.
Perry Haddock, the owner of Oztag, so he knew me quite well as a player. He was always good to me, and he knew me from back then. I sort of went away for some time, but I came back and coached the Central Coast men's, and we, within a year we were starting to have some success, and I think we won the 2017 Nationals. So that probably put me on the radar, and the fact that they knew about me at that, as a player, probably not so much as a coach. They were willing to give me a chance, and so I got that the national job in 2017. I coached at the 2018 World Cup, and then again 2023 World Cup in Ireland. So I got to do that for, I don't know, 6 or 7 years, and that was quite good. And they put faith in me. I did take it seriously. Like, the Australian team was starting to, they're always up there, but they were starting to lose more games than they should, and it was just because things were changing. Like, guys would get leaving, and there were some young guys. So it was worked perfectly for me to come in and start bringing some new blood and some new ideas, and it worked well.
Jeff, you mentioned Perry Haddock there. Of course, he invented the game of Oztag back in 1992 when he was coaching lower grades at St George. But Perry was from the Central Coast. He was a youngster that grew up at the Entrance and played for the Entrance in Erin, and before his NRL career took him to Cronulla and St George. But you said he invited you to come along. He must have been happy with his decision making there to get you involved, because, as we mentioned, for the last 7 years you've coached the Australian men's open team, and you've 2 World Cups. Tell us what it was like playing against other countries that had adopted this new sport, relatively new sport, and what it was like. Who was the stiffest opposition in those World Cups?
Yeah, it's changed over the years. So I first went to a World Cup 18 years ago, and that was good in New Zealand. That was my first sort of, I guess, look into those Pacific nations and the way that they celebrate and the way that they play and just the way they are in general. So that was a really, really good one. And New Zealand have always been competitive. I mean, they've always, even you see with the NRL, how many New Zealand players with so much talent. So they've always been strong, in the Pacific nations, Tonga and Samoa likewise. But the 2023 World Cup in Ireland was a real eye-opener for me. I had been to Europe, but not for 20 years, something like that. So to go over to Ireland, and they love it. I mean, rugby is big over there, and they were right into it. They're probably don't have as many players as what Australia does, but it is popular over there, in also parts of England as well, and France had a team. So anywhere there's rugby, I think Oztag's going to grow, because it is a similar game without the contact, and that suits a lot of people, particularly as you get a little bit older.
I'm sure that Perry Haddock offered you $1 zillion to take over the coaching, mate, did he? There was a good salary package there, car?
No, he might have. I haven't received it yet.
Okay.
It might be on its way.
All right. If you're driving with loved ones in your vehicle, having good tyres should be a top priority. Whitey's Right Price Tyres is here to help with the best and right tyres for your vehicle, for your car or SUV. If you're a tradie, there's the right tyres for utes, vans or wagons, plus trucks and caravans, always, of course, at Whitey's Right Price. On-the-spot rego checks, full mechanical repairs, huge range of the best tyres. Whitey's, a genuine one-stop place for most things motoring. Drive safer and better at Whitey's Right Price Tyres, Enterprise Drive at Berkeley Vale. You can give them a call, 4388 4321.
Well, Jeff, you've had plenty of success at coaching the sport as well. When you're preparing for tournaments, I'm interested to know, because you've got limited time to bring the players together. What are your preferences? What do you try and get in place? Is it your defensive structure? Minimise the attack you want to play? What are the sort of things? And you don't want them peaking too early. You want them to go through and be winning finals at the end of that weekend as well.
Yeah. So basically, it changes from tournament to tournament, but the guys are basically pretty fit. The one to make our team, you've got to be a certain level of fitness, and a lot of that's on them. We will do things at training where you really test that and make decisions under fatigue. But yeah, our focus, I only train them twice a week. So once on Sunday, once on Wednesday. So we've got probably maybe 3 hours with them. So I've just got to be very selective about making good use of that time. I know for a lot of our guys, they're talented in other sports as well. We've got guys that play high level soccer and AFL and rugby league. So I've got to make sure that the time that I do have with them is they can see it being meaningful, and also they get a little bit of fun out of it, because they essentially, if they're not having fun, then they're not going to want to turn up. So we do work a lot on defence, where we pride ourselves on being a really good defensive side, and as you know, it's half the game, and if you can do it well, it gives yourself a lot more opportunities, and then you can practice your attack and things like that. So yeah, it's something that we do. They're running over 30 Ks over the course of a tournament, over 9 games. It's a little bit over 3K per game for some of those really good players. So I've got to be careful of the workload. Leading up until the week of it, we really want to rest them. But prior to that, we're trying to get some running in them legs. But we're also, the nature of the game, you're stopping, starting, you're taking off, you're sprinting. There's a little bit of contact as well. So we make sure that we warm up, and that takes more time than what you probably want it to, but it really pays dividends in the end. But whatever the team names, we'll look back at past tournaments and see where we were good and where we weren't so good, and we'll just try to really work on those, do some drills and nail it.
Jeff, putting together an Aussie team means obviously players from not just New South Wales, Queensland very strong, so you've got to know some of the players from outside New South Wales and the coast. Do you have spies that will tell you, and you probably, when you're meeting them at state titles and nationals, you'd know some of the guys, but putting together the national team from the Central Coast, how's that? How does it work for you?
Yeah, well, it has been good. I mean, in the years that I did it, I'm not coaching the Australian team now, but when I did do it, it was, Central Coast was on top, so it was quite, it was good that I was able to get quite a number of, 5 or 6 players from the Central Coast in the Australian team. So that really good, and that was really good. And we had the captain, Breno Martin, and other key players. So they knew the way that I wanted to play and things like that. But yeah, as far as being aware of other players, we're at these tournaments, twice, 3 times a year, and I go around and watch, and not only for selection purposes, but we want to know what we're up against. If we've got a bit of an idea of some side strengths and weaknesses, we can mould our game plan slightly in each game, and we don't go in blind, and that, I guess, that helps with the selection. But I do have people that connections in the community. I like OzTag, so I talk OzTag with a lot of the other people from other areas and try to get a little bit of information, and nothing sinister, but it's good to know what's going on, and I want to prepare my, if there's something that another team's doing quite well, or then I like to, and we can use it, then I'll adopt it for ourselves.
Jeff, the trophy room at home must be swelling with the achievements you've had, both as a player and a coach. But one of your great achievements was the Ladies League tag side, Central Coast, when you won those state championships 3 years in a row, 2017, 2018, 2019. I know the opposition you were up against were very, very good. So that must sit high in your sense of pride in what you've achieved as a coach, both men and women.
Yeah, I really liked the league tag. I thought it was a great sort of addition to the Central Coast Rugby League. That the female element, they always, girls really want to play and they want to be involved, and that opened the avenue. And we've since had the Rugby League, which is also good. And I think that's just been so good for rugby league clubs on the Central Coast. It's the service that women in general give to the game is just so good. And it's as far as coaching, again, I would coach those girls prior in the Central Coast rep team, so I knew a lot of them, and they hadn't, they asked me again, like they want to do quite well, and they probably hadn't achieved what they had in the years prior. So I took that up, and I had some good assistants like Smokey Dawson and other guys, James Huff, who's now with Wong Roos. But yeah, we set about just getting the right girls from all over, all the different clubs, and we just said, look, if you want to be involved, this is our plan, and we're really going to go for it. And girls really bought in, and we had some good success. It was 3 years, but the turnover was, we got new girls each year, and we were watching the local league tag as it was improving, and we made sure we tried to get the good players. Some of those good players that still playing, and some got picked up from league. Jocelyn Kelleher, she was before she was playing league, and she kicked the field goal to win one of those titles, and I think that's where scouts probably first thought, oh, hang on, we've got something here.
Must have been funny coaching a team that shaved their legs, mate.
It was a bit different. I mean, coaching girls, I had no idea at the start. I've had no sisters, and
Sorry, girls.
yeah. So, but it was just a few things. Yeah, the hair and things like that. It took a little bit longer to prepare, but in terms of wanting to learn and athleticism, it was very, very similar. It was actually really, really good for me to see. And I really enjoyed that period.
Well, Jeff, you can compare because just after that time you took on the Central Coast under 23 men's side. From outside looking in, the assistance isn't the greatest that's given to you to take on that role. Yeah. Do you think that's lacking in ways? Do you think how can that be improved? Maybe for rep sides in the future, for the Clarkies and that are doing them jobs now.
Yeah, I think Central Coast is such a good region for rugby league, and I think we've got the talent here, but I don't know for whatever reason, maybe because we don't have an NRL club, I'm not quite sure what it is, but yeah, it is hard to operate in those circumstances. We don't have excess money, like the Central Coast Rugby League doesn't have excess money or resources, so but yeah, I really enjoyed that. I thought I had 2 years with those guys, and under 23s was a new concept at the time. They'd gone away from just the open. I thought that was a good idea because it gave a few of those younger guys another avenue to make country and then to kickstart their career. I actually had Shaq Mitchell in one of those years. I think I might have been both, but anyway, he was at that point he wasn't very fit, and you could see his talent, but he could only literally play 15 minutes a game. That was his limit, just because he was so big, and it was got for guys like that, just kept them in it, and from then he's gone on to play for South Sydney. We had guys like Connor O'Byrne, who really, really good local player, helped Tupley get those first of their premierships the other year, and he's gone to play with London Broncos. So that 23 side, some good players came out, and a lot of playing Denton Cup and things like that. So really good and enjoyable time.
Mate, being a coach, you obviously need some assistance, and I suppose we better mention the big fella, GP, Georgie Pace, who was with you as an assistant coach. Obviously not the level at the NRLs, but you would have had some sounding boards, I'm sure, while you were coaching the Aussie teams, the state teams, Central Coast teams.
Oh yeah, I've always had good assistants, and I feel like getting a good team around you is just anyone that wants to help that team go forward, whether it be a water boy, player, parent, anyone that's supporting a team, you've just got to, I think they don't get thanked enough because it is more than what runs on the field. George is just amazing. I've known George. I actually coached his daughter back at school. I met him at a touch gala day, and
have you seen the museum, Jeff?
Yeah, I've been to the museum. Yeah, if anyone gets a chance to go there, yeah, George has got more memorabilia than anyone you know.
Pretty amazing.
It's like, yeah, but I won't ruin it for him. But he's an outstanding guy to work with. He just do anything. He loves the game and his passion, and he's sometimes I overstep the mark or get it a bit serious with some of those guys, and he's always just there just to put me back in my place.
Jeff was talking about, back to OzTAB, we're talking about how it's evolved, how it's grown, over 200,000 people playing the game in Australia, and it seems to be, young boys, young girls, men, women, and then it goes on into the over 40s and etc. Do you think, is that a good reason for people to get involved? The fact that it's a family game and so many people can, and as we mentioned, we touched on 20 nations playing the game now as well.
Yeah, it's just such a good game. I mean, I didn't really understand it or know about it until mid-20s. But when I played, it's good for your health. The fact that you're part of a community and you go away to Coffs Harbour, twice a year, which is, forced holiday. So it's really, really good sport. I know a lot of good friendships, and I guess with any sport, you make good friendships. But it's one that, for those people that are rugby league orientated or rugby union and that don't want to get the knocks but still want to have a run around with their friends and family, I think it's a really good games for women, it's for mixed and men, so there's something for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, back with more of Jeff Coroneos and our sporting podcast at the Edelong Bowling Club. It's an Easter egg extravaganza. Hop in for their giant Easter raffle Wednesday, April 16. Who wrote this? And your chance to win stacks of Easter baskets and character eggs for the kiddies. They may even have a character egg of Dale Eggleton. They're working on it at the moment. Draw start at 6:15 p.m. Then spend Anzac Day, Remembrance Day, Friday, April 25 at the club. Day starts with a flag raising ceremony at 1:15. Then enjoy a free sausage sizzle. Live entertainment, club raffles, Easter and Anzac Day, all part of an awesome April at Edelong Bowling Club. For all it's on, go to edlongbowlingclub.net.
Jeff, we mentioned the success you've had, and you mentioned how you talk to other people at tournaments. You've got to keep evolving yourself to stay one step ahead of these sides, and you must have, to win 4 state titles as a coach and 5 national titles, 4 in a row as a coach. You must keep that one step ahead. What do you do? What do you do away to relax, to make sure that your mind's switched on to keep evolving?
Yeah, I must admit, I find it hard to switch off. I mean, I drove home last night and I'm thinking, yeah, great to win, and I really should be enjoying it, but I'm thinking, okay, they're coming to get us, and I don't know if it's my paranoid nature, but I'm like, what can we do to stop this? And I just think, I mean, my coaching philosophy is just, it isn't, obviously everyone loves winning, and that's the goal, but I really just enjoy improving teams, and I'm just always about how can we get better? What's something that we are not doing at the moment that we can improve on? And I try to, as individuals, I try to work on them, and I think that might be my teaching background, but I just always want to get better. And I'm watching the teams, and I know every win that we get is great, but you just that one a little bit closer to a loss, and I know it's going to happen at some point, but. I just always, as long as the boys can do their best, I know it's a cliche, but success is, being able to achieve what you can achieve. And sometimes that's not a win, but, that's what I'm after.
Mate, as a coach, and you obviously love rugby league, you would have looked at the NRL coaches. Is there one that you think, yes, I like the way this guy's done it, he's had success, maybe Trent Robinson with the Roosters, who is your favourite club? Is there one that you've looked at how they operate, or have you met an NRL coach and you go, this guy switched on, maybe I can transfer that to OzTag?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I read a lot of books. I mean, the one that I really like is John Wooden, but he's basketball, but reading his books, and I really his philosophy is really along with me. But I'm always looking at other sports and trying to get as much knowledge, and I love that challenge of trying to work out, how can you get the team to be the best? And sometimes it's doing less, and sometimes it's doing different things. But yeah, as NRL coaches, I obviously really like Craig Bellamy. I like the fact, the standards that he sets, and he's. I probably learn off him that you try to get the right people to your club, and people say they go down there and he turns them into good players, but I think there's a lot of work done before on the character of a player before he gets them down there. So he's just not getting just anyone. There's certain characters and certain characteristics out of players that he's after, and I really like that. I think Scott told me when he went down, and that they go out with their family and things like that, and they go out for breakfast and some sort of thing that they do with a lot of these young players that they're looking to sign, and the first thing is, if they don't say please and thank you to the waiter, then they won't go and sign them. And it really does align with me. So I really like that. Obviously Ivan Cleary, I mean, his victories have sort of coincided with what we've done. So I sort of understand how hard it is to, as you said, Dale, try to keep improving and stay on top of the game, because once you're up there, you're getting watched a lot, and and if you stay stagnant, it's inevitable. So you've always got to come up with, even in wins, people say, I always learn from my losses, but you learn just as much from your wins, because they're very, very rarely are they perfect, and you've just got to look at how can we improve. Is there something that we can do better? And you've got to be realistic with that, and you've got to have guys that are willing to take the feedback, because all our guys are good, but we want them to be better, and that involves working on yourself.
Jeff, I think it's also preparing for every scenario. You could have a player sent off. You could lose one of your crucial players in the first minute of the game. It's having them prepared, and you just touched on Bellamy and Cleary, and that's a good aspect of their coaching. They have their sides prepared for every scenario that can happen. You just mentioned the tournament this last weekend, the different scenarios you encountered in games, so you must be following that aspect as well.
100%. Yeah, we know that it's going to be unpredictable up there. We know that there's going to be a lot of running, and we don't know who we're going to play, and we don't know how good the opposition. But we just try to put ourselves in as many situations under fatigue, so that when the situation comes, that we can win our best chance to cope with it. We do a lot of things at training where certain people will be out, and we pull people out in and out. We defend with less people at certain times for a send off. We just don't know. Like, you've got to be, a lot of times you can be better than a side and lose. So you've got to make sure that you're that much better, that you can't let a refereeing decision or an unfortunate injury go against you. I mean, we try to really, you talk about, I think Melbourne and Penrith do it quite well. Here with the NRL, they say, this is their best 13 or this is their best 17. But if you're just thinking like that, it's not the way. We train with a lot of guys. There's some young guys that have been in our team training with us for 6, 12, 18 months, and they haven't got a run yet. But when they do get a run, I know they're going to be ready. And also, them sticking around, not playing, says to me that this kid's got character and is the type of kid that we want to eventually bring in. So we do have a big squad, and it's that next man up mentality. We'll put faith in anyone that we give an opportunity to.
Jeff, you look at OzTag on the coast, I think it's up to something like 11,000 players, so probably only soccer on the coast, maybe netball are bigger than it. The phenomenal growth that it's had on the coast, what do you put that down to, mate? The environment, the location, just obviously rugby league's been a huge factor in its growth, players going over. You mentioned Mitchie Williams, and that's sort of going from rugby league, still playing up until recently. So what do you put down to the phenomenal growth of OzTag on the coast?
I think, firstly, the people that run it, and I genuinely mean this, I know
Hello, Charmaine.
Yeah, I work at a couple of comps, but yeah, Charmaine and Dale, particularly run a really, really good organisation. They're community-minded. They help out players get to certain places and through raffles and sponsorship, and they just run a really, really good competition. So that is definitely one reason. But I think we live in you guys know this is probably more than me, is that we live in an area where people are active, and if you live on the Central Coast, it draws people that want to get out and about, whatever that might be. Soccer, it might be surf life saving, swimming, but people are active and they want to get involved, and it is a really, really good community. I think OzTag provides that avenue, but it also has a really good community aspect, going away a couple of times a year with 15 other people, coaches and things like that, and then watching the other teams, clacking them on. I think people get a real lot of enjoyment out of that, and I know from my own personal fact, when I got involved, I thought this was great. Like at that point in time, I was doing a lot of individual sports, and thought this is something that I really enjoy.
Jeff, you said about your school teacher background, that could be involved as well, but what's the best piece of advice you've been given that you like to pass on to whether it be male or female competing in the sport?
Yeah, I'm just big on commitment and just doing the best you can. And I know it's, a lot of people say it as a cliche, but I just really, when I pick my teams, there's a certain amount of athleticism and skill that you need. But the other big thing that I look at is, do they want to be here? If someone wants to be here and they've got the athletic ability, then I'll jump on them. I really like people that want to try hard and push themselves in whatever it might be. And so my advice to anyone is that work hard, and if you work hard, you'll get results eventually.
Mate, my final question to you now, mate, is where to from now? You've had success national, state level. You've been to World Cups with OzTag. What's in the future? I know you've got a young family now, mate. So what's in the future for you, Jeff Coroneos?
Yeah, I don't know. I've recently got a knee replacement, so it's given me a bit of a new lease in life. I've been surfing a bit, so yeah, I'll do a bit of that. But no, I want to stay involved in coaching. I've got City North. I've actually got City North girls 18s next week. We've got our trials. We've got some really good players that are in the Roosters system and Manly system. So that's something that's new for me. So I'll give that a go. As Dale mentioned, I'm at the entrance coaching league tag this year. It's not something that's going to take a whole heap of my time, and a lot of the girls will do the coaching themselves. But if I think I can help and maybe just add a bit of advice or a sounding board for some of those senior girls, I'll do that. But I always want to coach, and hopefully one day, if my son Caelan's interested in sport, hopefully I can stay involved and maybe coach him in something, whatever he wants to do. But if it's soccer, I might need to get Dale or someone else.
We'll have to get him to West Tigers, mate. West Tigers. Just work on that one.
I can see the roles are reversing. You know, where Pat Hart's seen the ability and the future in you. I'm sure you're going to find it with other people to get them involved for post their playing career, involved in coaching as well. What about the sport of Oztag? We've mentioned the rise it's had in such a relatively short period of time. Where do you see the future of that on the Central Coast and nationally? World? Yeah, well, Central Coast is I think we just won the club championship for juniors and seniors, so both state cups. So we're definitely a powerhouse. I mean, and I think I've said it to Rick before. You only need to look at the NRL and see how many kids that have come from the Central Coast are now playing in NRL. I think we've got 17, something like that are on the weekend. A lot of them are halves and things like that. So this area, I think Oztag's going to be really strong for a long time. We've got people that are involved or players that are now coaching, and I think it's going to flourish. I can't say much changing.
Absolutely. All right, Jeff, it's been an absolute pleasure, and as I mentioned, scintillating is the word, mate, this Victory Rap podcast. So thanks very much for taking half a day off.
Oh, no, I'll do that anytime.
No, we thank you, Jeff. You've been a good friend to us over many years. Always been willing to come forward and promote not only Oztag but all sports. So we're thrilled to have you involved in our sporting podcast here on the Victory Rap number 6. Good on you, Jeff.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
All right, and thanks again to our sponsors of our podcast. Good on you to Adam at Berkeley Vale Cellars, the Mighty Whitey at Whitey's Right Price Tyres, and hi to Kylie at Ettalong Bowling Club. This is the Victory Rap Sports Cup, and thanks again to Jeff for coming in, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to be very interested to hear your life story in Oztag, mate. Well done.
Thanks, mate. Our little grandson Henry loves it.
All right.
He's playing league as well.
Yeah,
it was good. His mum started to coach.
Now we're going to save it.
But Dad took over. They won their grand final.
Yeah, right.
Lindsay's up straight away.
Right.
Pretty strong.
Excuse them while I just make sure that I get this.
But they went to a rugby league gala, coaching clinic gala that the Sharks put on. He met Tommy Yardo, is it? Tommy Yardo.
Oh, Emma, Tommy Yardo.
Yeah. So was she touch or Oztag before she went to league?
I think she has played Oztag.
Oh no, she was in the rugby 7.
She has done that, but I think she's played Oztag. I think a lot of them have, like Jess Surgis.
Okay, so